This all began in Australia at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Perth in October 2011, now almost 2 years ago. And it was there that the Prime Ministers, heads of government of the 16 realms of which the Queen is head of state, all agreed in principle that they would change the laws of succession so that in future we don't have male primogeniture. That means simply that in future the first child, whether it's a boy or a girl, will be in line of succession. They all agreed that in Perth nearly 2 years ago, but so far I think the UK is the only country which has amended its law to give effect to that.
So what's happened elsewhere?
Well, it varies. Big problems in Australia and in Canada because of being federations. So in Australia and in Canada there was an argument between the federal government in Australia, the Commonwealth government in Canberra, and the states as to whether the Commonwealth could legislate on its own or whether it needed some kind of separate legislation by the states. And in Canada they've had an identical argument between the federal government in Ottawa and the Canadian provinces.
Australia in the end did seek permission from all of the states, but Canada did not. What sort of position does that leave these laws and the changes in?
Well, starting with Australia, in Australia there was quite a lot of pushback because the federal government in Canberra initially wanted just to legislate on its own, and first Victoria and then Queensland said, hang on, you can't just do that on your own, because we the states have our own separate and actually prior relationship with the Crown, and so you need to seek our consent. And now all the state parliaments are legislating to give their consent to the Commonwealth government then legislating on behalf of the whole of Australia. In Canada, the Commonwealth Parliament in Ottawa has legislated in a very minimalist law which simply recognises that the Westminster Parliament has changed the law on succession. And the Canadian federal government says that that's enough because they believe and they maintain that the law of succession is a matter of UK law, and changing that law doesn't require an amendment to the Canadian Constitution. The Canadian provinces, and in particular Quebec, think differently, and so they've now mounted a legal challenge, and that will probably go all the way to the Canadian Supreme Court.
So the situation looks like this baby will be born with some doubt, even if it's theoretical, as to whether it will be the direct heir to the throne, if it is a girl.
Indeed, it's very unlikely that this whole legal and constitutional issue will have been resolved by the time the baby is born. That doesn't matter because everyone agreed back in Perth in October 2011 that all the laws would be backdated to October 2011. So if and when all the 16 realms of which the Queen is head of state can get their act together, amend their constitutions or their laws as each state needs to do, then when all 16 have got in line, then the law can be changed, and whichever sex the baby is, with effect from October 2011, if it's a girl, she will be the next in line of succession.